All right, I think you guys can see my screen. Building a team. Any questions about what I covered in the Pinball Guide? Where to find the information? Any questions about
Yes.
comments, discussions?
Yes.
Go for it.
Yeah. Just clarification. When we talk about developing the project team charter, I don't think I've done that, but I've been in developing new agile teams, and a lot of the concepts sound the same. Is there overlap? Like when we're trying to form the team, when we go through the culture and different things,
When you say
is there
overlap,
similarity
overlap from with
when
predictive.
you form an agile team, when the
Yeah,
Scrum Master forms this up,
yeah,
vice when we're putting together the project team charter?
yeah,
Are there similarities or overlaps?
yeah. So I'll help clarify this for everybody. To your question, yes, yes. So well, what we have to understand overall, and the way I've interpreted the literature is that the PMP is the hierarchy when it comes to project management. Everything else came after. So there's overlap everywhere. Depends on where you're at. Software, where if you're just working in construction, it just depends on industry, right? So for the exam, just understand if you've heard me say in 2026, later this year, early next year, they're going to move the Pinball Guide 8, and it's going, all the PMs worldwide, like, hey, this agile thing is probably taking some steam here. So a lot of the mindset is going to being flexible because it makes sense. The environment is uncertain. It's complex. Some of these work environments we're working in, everything is not like just building a building, right? You can't put up the walls until you have the foundation. You can't have the foundation until you test the soil and make sure, it's like there's stop gaps there. You can't move on until you do something. And where in this agile world, that isn't so, it isn't the case. So yes, there are overlaps. For the exam, I want you to keep it high level. You're going to hear these words. And the reason why I say that is don't confuse or don't mix what Scrum is doing with Agile. At the end of the day, extreme programming. At the end of the day, Agile is the umbrella. All right, and we'll get to that when we get more in processes. But if you go and look, at the Agile Manifesto, I suggest everybody go and read that so you kind of understand where that came from. I want to say 2001, a group of software designers out in Utah on a skiing trip. The story has it, and it was like, hey, let's do this thing called Agile, and boom, it's been implemented, right? And so that's the backstory history on that. And so that's where all these things are coming from, is that you have Scrum Alliance, it's its own entity. PMI has its own entity, Project Management Institute. You have Scrum Alliance, and then you have all these other alliances of pockets of organizations that have their theory on how project management should be executed in this world. So at a high level, just understand PMI is the first and everybody has followed. And it is overlap, but for this exam, is not an agile exam. It's not a Scrum exam. It's a project management exam, and all those concepts are pertain to it. But don't go deep in the weeds with it. Everybody understand that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, Samuel, go for it.
Hey, hey, Chris, my question is with the Pinbox 8, now it's dropped on Amazon, but if the exam, the current PMP exam, there's not a definitive or a single source document. I mean, if you're saying the Pinbox 7, then part of the exam references back to the Pinbox 6. So now with the Pinbox 8, would they then reference the 7 and the 6 for future exams?
As of right now, hold on. I hear what you're saying. Um, I hear what you're saying, and what I'm saying is, they don't. The exam is where it is right now. So don't worry about the reference of 6 or 7. 6 or 7 is in play, right? But I tell you this, the PMBOK guide, and what I try to explain to folks is that the PMBOK guide is only one source document. There's like 10 other books that you probably should look at when you start digging into concepts, right? So that's why you're going to hear me say, keep it at a high level. Don't jump in the weeds. This is a general exam on project management theory, what you should be doing as a project manager. All right. So don't stick to 7 and 6 if you need to, because in actuality, I'll show you right now that if you could see it, this book right here has everything that's in PMBOK Guide 6. Predictive approach, processes, input, outputs. It's the same content. If you open this book and look at PMBOK Guide 6, it's the same content. So I'm here to tell you, don't stress about it. Don't stress about it. You'll be okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Just stick to this, and we'll be good to go. We'll be good to go. All right. Build a team. Boo. Any other questions? Did I miss anybody? So here we go. Build a team, straightforward, based off of what we have inside of the exam content outline. Build a team, appraise stakeholder skills, project resource requirements, continuously assess and refresh team skills to meet project needs, maintain team knowledge and transfer, right? At a high level, that's what we're doing. Team performance is what we just covered in PMBOK Guide 6. You got me saying it. PMBOK Guide 7, pages 16 through 31 is what I just covered that with you. Team performance is what that section speaks to building teams in a project environment. How do we go about? It's an ongoing process. It's not a one and done. It's something you do over a period of time. Building a team. You assemble the members with complementary skills, and then through that, you're developing, strengthening, and collaborating, building trust, structural focus. We do that by setting standards, project team charter, having organizational goals, cultural norms that we should go by, standard operating procedures, and then a focus is on how does the team behave, their performance as it pertains to those items, hiring and onboarding, assigning, and you do that team development through coaching, mentor, and evaluating. And so that process is an ongoing process in that sense. In your guys' workplace, those of you who are in project management positions, I know there's some people on here because I know y'all. I know you're here because I saw your application. If you got 10 years or more in project management, how are you building and developing teams? Give us some insight.
I started using a filter system. I created 9 tasks, and if they wanted to essentially be on the team, be in my program, then those 9 tasks would help them in the future. But the completion of those 9 tasks helped me judge whether or not they were going to be successful because they were committed. If they weren't committed, then that's fine. Maybe now's not a good time, but that's okay. But I needed to make sure and work with the people that were committed. So creating a filter system has really, really changed it for me.
Nice. I like it. Anybody else? That's a good, hey, there's gotta, unfortunately, everybody can't join the party, man.
I would echo the filter system. What I've used, um, not necessarily for um, what I would call IPT teams or integrated product teams, what I'm familiar with, but for our agile combat employment teams, same thing. It was training, and they had to meet certain requirements. It's 178 tasks we developed that they had to be intimately familiar with and signed off on in their training plan before we would allow them to join that team. But just my 2 cents. But normally in the government, especially if you work for AFL-CIMC, you don't get to choose your team. They give it to you on your IPT, and that's it. But
Yep.
I know, right? Go ahead, Dan. Thanks for that.
Hey, Chris. So one of the big ones is probably that bottom line on building team and developing team, where the hiring, onboarding, assigning, coaching, mentoring, and evaluating. Uh, but I just retired about a year ago, and I can tell you from a municipality and state level, more importantly from the state of Texas, I can't speak on other states. They do a terrible job of onboarding and assigning, and then the coaching and mentoring, and evaluating. I know the federal government's getting beat up pretty hard right now from the administration and everywhere else, but I can honestly say from a federal space, they do an exceptional job from the hiring, onboarding, and assigning with the coaching, mentoring, evaluating that looking back now in retrospective, it's pretty terrible. And I think that's what really captures and closes off cohesion, collaboration, and speed. And I think that's where a lot of folks find issues with retention, the workforce, and upskilling. I mean, I just honestly say, I mean, we baseline is pretty simple in the Army, regardless if you or even the Navy and Air Force and Marines. Sponsorship, well, is the hiring and onboarding piece, whether you're a private all the way up to sergeant major, and then you're assigning it to the organization uh, a year out. You know whether or not you're PCSing into a first sergeant position, commander position, ops position, and then that coaching and mentoring starts before you even hit ground. And I would tell you, based in the state and municipality level, even corporate, because they're hiring based on aptitude versus attitude. And every organization has aptitude. What works in Iraq doesn't work in Afghanistan, and what works in Afghanistan doesn't work in Iraq. So when you talk about building and developing teams, I think at the end of the day, it comes back to that last line of hiring, onboarding, assigning, coaching, mentoring, and evaluating.
Love it, love it. Thanks for that, Dan. That's awesome. I think that's right on point. Jonathan.
Yeah, in my experience, depending on where you're at in an organization, if you're just a PM, the what I've started to see is we're kind of shifting more agile. So our expectation in the organization I'm in right now, every PM is expected to be a Scrum Master too. And I got more to the program level when it came to that capacity, skills alignment. The PMO, we work pretty diligently trying to take the best notes we can to identify, customer challenges, and then go down a little layer lower than that and getting to the PM challenges to really identify what that account really needs for that project. And then we kind of assess, our team's skill sets, experience, their maturity, and so on. Because the one thing I'm facing and having difficulty is while you might have the aptitude on paper, like how do you distinguish, if they really know what they're doing? It's like in the military, a lot of people are really good at test taking. When it comes to direct application, it's a completely different story. So the PMO, we have the sponsors, the skilled, senior project managers will get together and we'll go based off whose availability, who has availability and who has the skill set to assign people to those specific projects. And then to what Dan was saying earlier, especially in government work, it's not just government work, but it's usually with, I think, healthcare. And my experience is you don't really get to choose your team. You're just assigned those assets, resources, people. I don't like to, dehumanize anybody, but those team members, those are just assigned to you. And then it's a matter of you kind of looking at that hiring, onboarding assignment from that meeting. And then the coaching and mentoring is immediate. You go in there, and what has worked best for me is I find my leads, because your dev team, and I'm taking from an IT standpoint, your dev team, your sponsor, your product owners, and your QA teams, I really break them down into that. And you find those leads because all the team members are going to report to their leads, and the relationship you have with the lead of each of those team pods is critical. And that's where I spend most of my time, is having that one-on-one with the leads, understanding their gaps, their challenges. And then in those stand-ups, that's where I'm kind of like the peer mediator, because you're right. People start pointing fingers at each other. No, it's your fault. And they start pointing these blames, but you maintain that neutral environment so they can get into problem solving. And I find the most value by having that one-on-one relationship and that buy-in from that leadership. It makes for a much different stand-up, those daily meetings. They're more effective, they're quicker, and it's just better business value overall.
No, appreciate that. Great insights. I like which one. Let me get one more. Ebony, go for it.
Okay. So I'm laughing because I have been in project management for 20 plus years. So if you military or government, you're not fact PPM, you're wrong. So I never had to even touch PMP. And the interesting thing is when you talk about teams, I've never had I don't know where people get the luxury of being able to choose their team. You're given your team, like, get this done. Here's who's assigned. And then I have to, like, essentially lead the team, right? To figure out who has the best experience, like who's going to be in what position. And I'm going to admit, I took the PMP test, right, without trying to study and actually use real world experience. So, I bombed. That's why I am in this boot camp, because the government is hiring PMP. Like, that is our priority right now, is PMPs and cores, just in case y'all don't know. But again, basically I learned to navigate, like, okay, I get everybody together. You're missing the key part, right? The stakeholders, because the stakeholders typically know exactly what they want. And then I talk to the team and figure out what they want to do. Because if you get somebody that isn't motivated, really doesn't want to be part of the team, I still got to keep them on the team, but I'm going to put them over to the side, and we still going to get it done. And I don't think the federal government understands the spelling of agile. So that's just a funny thing in itself, because I don't think we've ever gotten anything done quick, right? In those 30-day sprints.
No.
Hey, they laid on agile hard though.
That's awesome. Well, hey, let's do this. Sounds like something going on downstairs. I think let's take a break. It's about 43. Let's come back at a little bit after 53, somewhere in there, and we'll continue. Something's going on here. I'll be back. Y'all get some water in, water out. I'll be back. Let's take a break. Let's get back to the business. Almost. Couple minutes. By the way, just want to say really quick, appreciate you guys for your participation. I know it's a long day. Trust me. It's a long, this is the first one down. Just 3 more to go. 3 more to go and we'll be done. But I want to make sure you all have what you need for this exam, just to get us rolling and try to get past all of this, the people, the power skills, and we got to get into these processes. Domain 2, we've got a lot to cover there, and I think I like what PMI wants. Smooth sailing. No, I good discussions. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. In regards to the coaching and mentoring and evaluation, I've worked for GDIT. I think out of all the companies I've worked for in the past decade after retiring in 2015, I was an all-source analyst for the Joint Improvised Explosive Defeat Agency in Reston, Virginia. In the company, I was a contractor and I worked for CSRA at the time, but they were bought out by GDIT. And that's probably the only place where I worked where it was official evaluation. I worked for about 6 months and I somehow became a lead analyst. And so I had to evaluate folks and had to make sure they took the online training because that's every raise each year. That's how folks were getting a raise based off of did you do the company training? Did you follow the pathway for professional development? And I had to stay on my guys like, hey man, go in there, do a class a day, I would cut out time for them. Hey, go and do a 1 hour video course because that's how you're going to get a raise when they give us some more money at the end of the year. And that's probably the only place I've worked for State Department. Didn't really see it. I worked for Capitol Police, and it's more so the contract company you're working for because I was a contractor for State Department, and then I was a contractor for Capitol Police, and those organizations, the companies didn't have a good mentoring, evaluation, coaching. It's kind of depending on where you're at just as a contractor employee, you're kind of on your own. You just show up, do what you're told, or not, and you get fired. But that's been my experience with companies when it comes to team development. The onus is on you to do your own development. And some of these project teams, they kind of just expect you to do the right thing. Yeah. No, you guys got some good. Most orgs are like that. I know it's a little depressing sometimes that most organizations are like that. I mean, acting like an adult. Very depressing. All right. Let's bring the mood back up. we're going down the rabbit hole, but team development, like the discussion, you guys will be familiar with this one. We talked about this, right? Tuckman's ladder. Here's the exam tip for you. Look for structured selection. PMI expects strategic selection plus continuous refresh. Reassign or fire are rarely correct. Train, realign, or mentor usually are. So if your choice is to do one of those, don't reassign and don't fire, right? Don't reassign, don't fire. That's like last resort. I guess PMI feels like everybody's supposed to do their job, but when people don't, you gotta reassign, or we got other things like just people not being nice to each other in the workplace, right? So what do you do with that? Sometimes you just gotta make a immediate extraction and like, you're out of here, and get them out the way. But this is what we're looking for this exam. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of theory here, and that's what I want to address to everybody. We have reality, what we know, and it's right. Reality is right for us in the realm we work in. If you go to another organization, what you know is right, it may not be the same. It may be similar. And that's the thing we know about reality. But in theory, to all the PhDs and all the super smart people who've come before us, have developed all these concepts, this is what should be happening and this is what we're using to help us get along.